Part 27. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 262. Battalion of 261 City. Yekong looked at Chen Baixuan and couldn't help but sigh. Maybe he was a child, maybe Xianxia's teaching would make him turn evil. But soon, Yekong suppressed his thoughts, took out a book from the storage bag, and said, "Xian'er, this is to teach you the method of immortal cultivation. You read it first, but you do know it." Where? Although Chen Baixuan was the son of Xiaokai, he didn't know a few characters, and Yekong patiently taught him one by one. After a while, Chen Baixuan finally learned all the exercises on the first level. He looked up and asked, "Master, when this exercise is finished, can I dominate Dongju Street?" Yekong laughed, "It's more than dominating Dongju Street. If you finish the exercises in this book, even the Emperor Wu Guo has to nod your head." Chen Baixuan was overjoyed. "Really? How powerful is that?" Yekong nodded, his eyes sharpened, and said, "Xian'er, you have to remember. Prestige is to be brought back by yourself. Prestige is not given by others, nor is it replaced by your mother-in-law. Most people give only fake foxes and tigers. The majesty in return can only make others laugh at you forever." "Master, I know." Chen Baixuan lowered his head. He taught Chen Baixuan the first layer of exercises and explained the precautions. He was left with a storage bag, which contained a bottle of elixir, several spirit stones, and the musical notes set by Zhang Yekong. Then Chen Baixuan couldn't wait to practice in the formation. Yekong walked out of the hut alone. Baijie was waiting outside. She did not dare to go in, she had to keep quiet outside. Her heart was full of joy. "Xian'er can finally cultivate the fairy. You can also stare when you are dead." The Chen family also came out fairy. However, she thought, why did the Lihizi immortal master accept Xian'er as an apprentice? He should know that the spiritual route is the worst qualification, isn't it? Master Li Xian really looks after himself. Thinking of this, Baijie looked crimson and burning. When she was entangled in her heart, she saw Yekong come out, but Xian'er didn't come out. Xian'er, he has learned the first layer of exercises, and is meditating. Recently, his body will emit various impurities. You can prepare a few more clothes for him. When Yekong just wanted to tell something, he saw a flash of tears in Baijie's eyes. Suddenly kneeling in front of her, weeping tears with a handkerchief, and sobbing, "The immortal is on top, please accept the little girl." The great grace and great virtue of the immortal master, the little woman did not want to pay back, just begged the immortal master to be a bull and a horse for the next life, and the grass ring. "Hey, Miss Bai, you can't do it, please." Yekong hurriedly went up to help, holding a pair of white hands with Baijie in vain. "No, Xianxia, let the little girl give you a head." "No, no, I'm a few years younger than you." When the two were embarrassed in the room, they suddenly heard a noise outside. The sound of banging the door, and someone roaring, "City defense camp catches suspects, has no eyes and swords, idle people, etc., quickly avoid." Baijie was pale in shock. "Not good, then Sujia Y is the son of Lord Su of the city defense. It must be that they brought revenge with the soldiers. I even dare to kill the emperor, not to mention you a city defense adult." Yekong snorted coldly and comforted, "Miss Bai, don't panic. From the perspective of this repair, the city defense is not even a feather." After Baijie heard it, she was a little embarrassed. She said that Li Xianxia was so vulgar. How could she say to the woman, "Bird hair"? But what surprised Baijie even more was that after Li Xianxia finished talking, he clamored and took off his coat. "Li Xianxia, you are..." Looking at Yekong's dark and strong chest, Baijie concealed his little red mouth. But soon she understood. "I saw Yekong again took out a suit from the storage bag and put it on. This suit was snow-like, although it was similar to the previous Xingyi, but the difference was that a white cloud logo was embroidered on the left chest of the white suit. The young boy, Bai Yi wins the snow, the golden cloud set off the nobleness of Jo Men's disciples. At that instant, Bai Ji felt a little stupefied. Open the door. If you don't open the door, you'll smash it. Outside the courtyard, a general-like man with several soldiers slammed the door. How dare to bully Master Su, I was really impatient. The general snorted and ordered, smash the door open for me. Just when several soldiers wanted to smash the door creaked open, and a boy in white stood behind the door. Someone has reported this hiding thief. Young people, they tied me up in the house, the leader raised in the sky, roaring in his mouth. However, this time his men did not move. When the general was in doubt, he heard a soldier reminding him, the general is the fairy master of Yunfuzong. The fairy of Yunfuzong, immortal master. Then the general led a puppet and said in his heart that Sujia was out of stock. Why didn't you tell me to come here? Can immortal masters offend us? Although those immortals live with our mortals, mortal laws do not control them at all. The immortal teacher killed the mortal, that was also a white kill. No wonder Sujia's kid didn't come by himself. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 263. Lesson 262 from Sujia. This general, you are very prestigious, I do not know how to call it. Yekong walked out with a cold smile. Xianxia, the small one is on duty in the city defense camp, not a general, not to mention the cheap name, to save your fairy ears poor. This general quickly changed from a tiger to a kitten, even his own name I dare not say that I am afraid that Xianxia will destroy him. Yekong originally wanted them to taste something awesome. I didn't expect this kid to be so acquainted that he didn't have to take a shot. He said lightly, it's not easy for Ben Chiu to look at you at a young age and be a dog. Let your horse go today, if you see you again, Xianxia rest assured that no one will see me next time you see it. The general was scolded by Yekong as a dog, which seemed quite happy. Yekong stared and shouted, that's not going to go. Want me to cross your females? The city battalion soldiers were so frightened that they fled, and fled in a blink of an eye. Seeing Yekong's grandeur, a few words scared those fierce soldiers like his grandson. Bai Ji couldn't help but move on Yekong's body, as if there was something attracting him. Li Xianxia, you are really polite. Bai Ji Ting Ting closed the door of the courtyard and said quietly again. Speak polite. Yekong hadn't been said so. No one in this life or this life had ever said that he was polite. Yeah, Bai Ji said earnestly. The little woman found that every time the immortal master drove them away, they had to go back and greet the women at home. From this, it can be seen that Li Xianxia was not only polite, but also generous, and resented by virtue. It is a rare gentleman in the world. And only greeting the woman, it also shows that the immortal teacher respects the noble character of the woman. Immortal teacher, please worship the little girl. Yekong almost fainted, and his immortal was stubborn. Lao Tzu's words of curse were even understood so profoundly by her. The level of Bai Ji's political theory is really not ordinary. Bai Ji wants to worship, then let her worship. It would be a shame to save her from poking her face again. However, just as Bai Ji worshipped, Yekong suddenly thought, his figure flickered, and she pulled Bai Ji's delicate body aside. Bai Ji froze, didn't stand still, and plunged into Yekong's arms. But behind her was a bang, and the wooden door opposite was kicked open. If it was not Yekong, she would be hit by the wooden door. Sujia did not come with the soldiers of the city defense battalion, that was to find someone. He knew that the black-faced boy was a monk, so he also knew that the soldiers were not useful, so he hurried to find a monk for help. He also knew a monk, and his dad had a general, and his son had just been accepted by Yunfuzong. Hey, I'll find a Yunfuzong disciple, and I won't scare you to this casual repair. So at this moment Xianxia came fiercely, and with that Yunfuzong disciple, he saw the back of the other soldiers fleeing from afar, cursing something useless, and then kicked the door open. The sight in front of her suddenly made Xianxia full of anger, and saw that the beautiful little girl was leaning timidly in the arms of the dark-faced guy. It was the little lady who should have been lying in my arms, but now she was lying in his arms. Xianxia's lungs were about to explode, and he roared, "Brother Blue! Help me kill this blackbird!" Yekong looked up, and saw a man who was also wearing the clothes of Yun Fuzong's disciples, and when he looked again, the guy came up with a smile. "I've seen Brother Li, and Lan Tianming is here, and I met him in the hall that day." Yekong remembered this now, and the young man was the blue brother who wanted to have a relationship with himself in Sihadian. It turned out to be Brother Lan. "I don't know what happened to Brother Lan at this moment," Yekong asked. Lan Tianming was bitter in his heart. "This Li Hezishiu is far better than himself, and I heard that he is a red man in the eyes of the old director Cao Muking. He is really full today. What about muddy water?" "Well, Brother Li, can you borrow another step?" Lan Tianming asked with a smile. "Anyway, it's all here, you have something to say but it's okay." Yekong didn't seem to want to give this face. Lan Tianming is helpless, he is nothing like others, and he has to buy his account. This is impossible. Although he complained that Brother Li was too big and arrogantly like Jadan's ancestor, he also bored faceless. "Brother Li, actually, everyone is your own, so don't fight anymore. This Xianxia is the son of my father's boss. I brought him here to apologize specially. I also hope that brother can remember the suspicion and let go." He was a horse. Listening to Lan Ming's words, Xianxia is about to vomit blood. "Please, I asked you to seek revenge, not you to take me to apologize." "Damn, I'm going to apologize." However, Xianxia is not a fool. It can be seen that this black-faced guy is also a Yunfu sect, and is a Blue Sky Ming's brother. Even the Blue Sky Ming that he relies on nodded and bowed to him. What can he do? "Brother Li, I was wrong, and came today to apologize," Xianxia reluctantly said. He lowered his body and apologized, but Yekong Kong didn't accept this feeling, thinking he was in Nandu City, which was the plague that everyone was afraid of. "Where can we let others find fault again and again? Who told me to kill this blackbird just now?" Yekong sneered, waiting for the blue sky to come out for mediation. Going up to Xianxia was a big mouth, and kicking and flying Xianxia out. "Brother Li, why are you doing this?" Lan Lanming's face couldn't be hung up, and this black-faced guy was too much. "People came to apologize. You still hit him in front of me?" Yekong didn't think so. A guy like Xianxia had to chill him once, and he didn't dare to be arrogant. Otherwise, as soon as he left, the boy might come to trouble by Jia again. "Xianxia, I have already said. If you dare to come again, I will definitely give you a profound lesson. Li Hezi has always been 1, 2 is 2. If it is not Brother Ming Lan, today you have been returned to Huan Quan. I will tell you again, if there is another time, no matter who comes, you will have no choice but to die." "Brother Li, hey, let's go." Lan Lanming didn't know what to say. He turned around and left Xianxia, groaning alone. "Li Xianxi, this, he." Looking at Xianxia outside, Bai Jia was so speechless. She has been completely shaken by the strength just shown by Yekong. Li Hezi talk, always 1 is 1, 2 is 2, if there is another time, no matter who comes, you will only have a dead end. This saying was powerful and shocked Bai Jia's heart dazzlingly. In a world like the Kangnan continent, the strong has long been deeply rooted in people's hearts. Even if Bai Jia is not a man who loves macho men, he is deterred by Yekong's display of momentum at this moment. "I just think this Li Hezi is so brave, so strong, and so exciting. Let him lie down, leave him alone, and if he regenerates, let Xian'er send me a note." "Oh, yes. Then I'll go back to the mountain. Oh, yes. Looking at Baiji who can only say good, Yekong smiled bitterly, girl, you hold me, how can I go? Baiji quickly let go of her hand, her face was red with shame, and looking at Yekong's back, she suddenly remembered something and shouted, Li Xianxia, please go back and help me cross your male family. Yekong heard it and almost fell to the ground. This Baiji is really tough. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 264. Who is 26 Zhangde? The sun and the moon in the mountain passed by quite fast, and 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Today is the day to go to Zhangde's magic weapon. Yekong originally wanted to go early, but Cao Muking came to the medicine garden again in the morning. After watching this, there was a long time before he left. So Yekong went out and it was noon. Backyard of Spirit Girl Pavilion. Zhangde's face was drowsily facing the inner armor in front of him, his fingers rubbing back and forth on the inner armor, feeling the delicate lines on the armor, and being reluctant. Zhangde's 2 apprentices were standing aside. One was a young monk who was introduced by Yekong that day. He was about 14 or 5 years old. He had red lips and white teeth and was a handsome guy. Although his practice is to refine the 4 layers of gas, if he knows his details, he will not belittle him. The other is the strong man who opened the door that day. The 5-level refining of the gas refining looks like a mummy. Looking at Master's reluctance, the younger monk at the age of 14 or 5 said, Master, since you love this Sumner inner armor so much, do nt give it to him. Zhangde smiled, shook his head and said, give or give. The man of Namu said, of course I have to give it. That black-faced monk is a good person. Upon request of the master, he promised to give him the master's skin. How can we covet his things? Zhangde cursed, you just have a bad brain. So you practiced for more than 20 years before refining the 5-story gas, look at the small building. Zhangde pointed at the handsome little monk, his eyes full it is a proud divine color, saying, he has only cultivated for a few years and will soon catch up with you. The Muna man was trained by the master and scratched his head and said, the younger brother is talented and intelligent. Of course, it looks like my old solid wood. I certainly can't compare to the younger brother. Zhangde sighed with hate for iron and steel. Xiaolo, played by an enthusiastic reader, watched the master compliment herself, and couldn't help but be a little proud of herself, coquettishly said, brother, do you know why master only wants such a small piece with him? Such a esoteric problem, even Yekong was blinded, not to mention the honest man of Muna. He scratched his head and said, because master only needs this small piece. Wrong. Big mistake, Xiaolo said, that is actually just a way for master to test the kid. As long as the dark-faced boy agrees, it means that he still has a lot, not just this little kid. Block. Master needs more than just a small piece. Oh, that's the way it is. The Mana scratched his head again, which made him understand a bit, but he didn't understand it again, and asked, why doesn't master ask him more for this? Xiaolo laughed with his honest brother, brother, you are too real. Then Mopipai is a treasure of heaven and earth only in ancient times. If you want more, what can he give? Even if he would give it a big piece, it might as well get him all. Watching the performance of the proud disciple, Zhangde was always happy and laughed, small building, you are really smart, haha, this is a good apprentice of the old husband. Munahan shook his head and said, master means murder and treasure? But people kindly help us, but we want to kill and treasure. It's too much. Before the Muna man finished talking, Zhangde roared, Mauzalii. You are really stubborn. The immortality of the immortal world, what's the truth? Either you kill him, he kills you. Like you, going out later will be killed. I do NT know how to die. Zhangde scolded Ma Zalii, enthusiastic reader guest, so speechless that he let his tone loose and said bitterly, Zhaolei, I know you have a good temper, but you have to know that as a monk, the only thing is the purpose is to enhance one's own strength so that it can survive in this world. In order to improve one's own strength, let alone an irrelevant kind-hearted person, even one's own parents and brothers, there is nothing you can't abandon. I think the old man. Zhangde said that his face was dark, and he didn't continue to talk. His eyes flickered for a while, and then he waved his hand, Zhaolei, go ahead and prepare. Today, the task of killing the black-faced monk will be given to you. It's up. The manner Ma Zalii responded and went out to prepare. As soon as the brother left, Jizilo hurriedly came up and whispered, Master, the brother is generous and has a good opinion of the little monk, will he? Zhangde shook his head and said, No, although Zhaolei is honest, he never refuses to order me. He has followed me since he was 6 years old, and I know him well. Even if you would betray him, he would not betray him. After Zhangde said, he couldn't help but sigh. Zhaolei is a good boy, but he just embarked on the road of cultivating immortals. After listening to Zhangde's comment, Jizilo was a little unhappy, and hummed, Master, what do you say? Although Master taught me, in order to promote anyone can betray, but the teacher treats me better than my biological parents. If Xylo betrays Master, how is it different from livestock? Zhang Dihaha laughed, you are also a good boy. Xylo was more comfortable, and asked, Master, what's the use of this ink skin? Zhangde laughed, you don't know that. The biggest cost that I and other people who practiced the practice of relying on were the copper skin and the iron bone, and the ink skin is also a tough thing. If our bodies are strong, and we add a armor of armor, it is hard. Harden, strengthen, and strengthen. If you get the Mo Yan skin for your teacher and build a super armor, even the old Cao Guang is not my opponent. I can revenge my Zhang family. It turns out that this ink moth still has such a function. I don't know how many monks there are, Jizilo said. If there are more, can I do the same? Of course, Zhangde understood the apprentice's mind and laughed, relax, how can I miss you as a teacher, and let my teacher make up my mind to kill this black-faced monk? One of the main reasons is that I want to give you and Zhaolei make your own set, otherwise the teacher should be greedy for that kid, why bother him? Jizilo heard that he had a share, and he was overjoyed, and he knelt with his fists and fell down, thank you master. Come up, Zhangde also laughed, and then his eyes fell on the ink armor, disdain, I don't know who made this thing, it looks like a good defense weapon, but in fact, the real defense ability of Momo skin was not exerted, otherwise, how could it be caught by the paw of a spirit beast? Jizilo laughed, it must have been the kid's master's refining. How can those people's refining skills be compared to the master? Even the master of the refining master does not necessarily exceed the master. Although Jizilo had some touted suspicions, Zhangde was still very happy. He laughed, small building, wait for Mo Yan to come back and make a set for the teacher, and you will understand that this Mo Yan how bad is a. The two were talking happily, and when they heard Yakong's voice sounded outside, Zhangde is available, pick up the goods down. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 265. Take another disciple. Being there, the master and apprentice glanced at each other and smiled proudly. In their opinion, this Mo Yanpi is indispensable. Although the black-faced monk has already refined 7 layers of gas, their strength is more than that. On the surface. Then Jizilo hurried out and greeted Yakong. Dao's 2 instruments have been repaired. Please ask Dao to check and use them. Zhangde raised his hand and pointed at the 2 instruments on the table. Yakong looked very happy, picked up Jin Dunkyuo's sword, and saw that the thing became thinner and looked better. Try the function again, it becomes bigger and smaller, and the group shields are broken. They are all good, and the power has not weakened. Then Yekong took the inner armor again, and the tier was glued to the seams. He held the two sides of the crack with both hands and pulled hard, and the cracks remained unchanged. Yekong once again put on the armored armor, only to see the dim light brighten, and then disappeared. The armored armor disappeared invisible. Mr. Zhang Lao's technology is really amazing and amazing. Good, good. Yekong is indeed very satisfied. I'm afraid that even if he goes to the master sect, this effect may not be achieved. Even if you can achieve this effect, don't want to go out without killing you thousands of spirit stones. Mr. Zhang Lao is highly skilled and has first-rate character, admired by minor repairs, Yekong said sincerely, raised his hand to take out a small bag of spirits from the storage bag, and took out a piece of palm-sized inkwell skin. Seeing Mo Yanpa, Zhangde immediately opened his eyebrows and laughed, and quickly laughed, "It's too big, not so big." "Mr. Zhang, you can keep it." Yekong set down Mo Yanpa and left. Zhangde shouted enthusiastically, "Dao, if you have any instruments to make and repair in the future, you can find me." "For sure." Although Yekong was very fond of the old man Zhang, he was very cautious. After leaving the Lingnu pavilion, he did not rush to the next stop, but walked around Surabaya city, and found that no one was following him, so he came to the Yi family firm. This time, the shopkeeper did not dare to neglect. When he saw Yekong coming, he rushed to meet him and led Yekong to the second floor. Soon, the shopkeeper ordered some of the herbs needed by Yekong. But the most important one, the sage, is still missing. Yekong was very upset. Yi Rongdan still had a lot, and his consumption was slow. What he needs most now is the high-end spirit beast Dan. If the sage is not available, the spirit beast will not be refined. Being annoyed, I heard the shopkeeper say again, "There will be an auction in our store next month. I don't know if the friends are willing to participate. At that time, there will be many monks to participate. Maybe you can find the materials you need." "Oh, is that right?" Yekong had heard of the auction early and would not have had no chance to see it. This hearing, he immediately agreed and asked for the date before leaving the Yi family. Things were almost the same. Yekong went to Dongcheng and wanted to go to Baijier's house to see how Chen Baixuan practiced. When I came to Dongju Street, I saw Chen Bai's women's clothing shop sign. Women went in and out. Ying Yanyan was so busy. Although they are all mortal women, Yekong does not discriminate against mortal women, but she feels that mortal women are gentler than females, like little peppers. When Yekong wanted to walk over, a sudden flash of light appeared in front of him, and a young boy threw himself to his knees. "Immortal Master! Little Sujia, why and other places are so bitter? You are finally here." Kneeling in front of him was Sujia Y, who suffered from Yekongjio last time. At this moment, his wound was not good, and his face was in close contact with the ground still there. When Yekong saw the boy coming again, he was immediately annoyed and angry. "Sujia Y, do you really want to die? Your defensive father in the city, I have never taken anything seriously." "Xianxia, no, I'm not here to make troubles." Sujia Y was frightened, shrinking in fright, and quickly said, "The younger waited here for 10 days without harassing Chen's mother and son." "Wait for me? What? I heard that you accepted Xian'er as an apprentice, and I want to worship you as a teacher." "You," Yekong smiled bitterly, "this apprentice was still addicted." He said at the moment, "Sujia Y, it's not that I don't accept you. You know, the cultivation of immortals requires qualifications. If there is no spiritual root, the immortals are useless." Sujia Y said, "He can cultivate immortals. At least he's the root of the spirit. I'm also a psychic root." He immortal was stubborn. "I have searched for so long and haven't found the roots of the spirits. Now I don't find it, but I go out one by one. Come, stretch your wrists." Sujia Y heard her hope, She was overjoyed, and reached out her hand. Yekong put his hands together. It really is a complex root. Why are there so many psychic roots? Yekong was depressed. Xianxia explained, Immortal Master, you don't know. In fact, there are many such spiritual roots. But everyone is embarrassed to say that everyone knows that the spiritual root cultivation has no future and is no different from waste. So the spiritual root no one will preach everywhere, and people who are not close will not know. Yekong nodded, only then did he understand why the complex roots are hard to find, and all of them are afraid of jokes, and hide nothing. Immortal Master, you will accept me. I promise, in the future, you must change your evil spirits, practice with one heart, listen to the Master, be honest. Yekong laughed, it is not impossible to accept you, and I want to tell you that the most suitable method for the set of exercises is the root of the spirit. Xianxia listened to the great joy, kept hoeing, and constantly called the Master in his mouth. Yekong waved his hands. Don't be too busy calling me a master. I'll watch your performance. If you're doing well, it's okay to accept you. In the Chenbai's women's clothing factory, Baijie was busy, entertaining those big girls and daughters-in-law. Xiaobai, who were you from that day? It's terrible. Sister Fang was still afraid when she thought of the scene that day. Baijie laughed. Sister Fang, don't be afraid, my family Xian'er just worshipped a monk master, he has taught those people, and those people will never come again. Sister Fang wiped her eye and said, it's good if I won't come. I was scared to death that day. Hey, I didn't stain the belly band I asked for. Baijie quickly found the belly band and said, this is the one I just embroidered yesterday, and that one was already a sample that day. After all, how can a woman's personal thing be touched by others? As the two were talking, the doorway of the women's clothing factory was dim, and a man walked in. Seeing this man coming in, the woman in the shop suddenly panicked, especially the older sister Fang, who was depressed and dead. I was afraid of these people, so I waited for 10 days and heard that no bad person would come again. Who knows how to meet these people? Did these guys come with him? Why is it so moldy? Baijie was even more panicked, did not expect these guys to come again. Immortal Master is not here today, how can this be good? The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 266. 265 Pointing Apprentice. The air in the women's clothing factory suddenly suffocated, and everyone's eyes were directed at this uninvited guest. If it wasn't for that guy blocking the door, Sister Fang and others would have fled. What can make everyone's eyes fall is that the man who was fierce last time suddenly threw a knee to Baijie. Little Xianxia meets her sister-in-law. Xianxia continued to stunt her head, and her mouth was crooked again and again. Sister-in-law is on, and the disciples have been corrected. From now on, there will be any mission for the disciples, as long as one sentence, the disciples will go to the soup and dance without saying a word, even if Madam wants to command the city defense camp, it is a word. Baijie didn't know what was happening, but felt confused and looked at Xianxia vigilantly, in case he had any conspiracy. And the women who bought clothes around looked at Baijie in surprise, and murmured in their hearts, but did not see that this woman selling clothes had such a deep background that even the city defense camps could command it. Daughter. Looking at the surprised eyes around, Baijie was about to cry, her face flushed and roared, last name Su. Don't bother me to make it happen. I'm not your sister-in-law. Give me a roll. Xianxia explained quickly, Master, listen to me. The master just accepted me as an apprentice, and I am Xian's brother. After that, the apprentice must be filial to her and listen to her, please forgive me for what I did before. Baijie suddenly realized that Li Xianxi was here, and she also accepted Xianxia as an apprentice. However, she was embarrassed to be called a sister-in-law. Are you saying that Li Xianxi is here? Baijie asked quickly. Yes. The master has gone to your courtyard. Baiji heard that Xianxia was here, and she felt a joy in her heart. She wanted to go back to see it now, but she was embarrassed to leave the customers in the shop. The older sister Fang was straightforward and laughed, "Xiao Bai, no wonder you are not introduced to a few men. It turned out to be immortal. Congratulations. You go back, rest assured, we help you look at the store, besides, don't you have another apprentice?" Baiji blushed and yelled, "What do you guys say? Master Li Xianer is Master Xian'er, not like you said, how could Xianxi see women like me?" Another elder sister quipped, who said that Master Xian couldn't look down on you, Xiaobai boss is so beautiful that our women are tempted to see it, oh, a little lady like you is most welcomed by men. Those big girls can't keep up. Baiji was introduced to the store by everyone. Although it was a misunderstanding, she liked it very much. Thinking of Li Xianxi's dark and sturdy figure, the nobleness in white clothes, and the incredible style, Baiji jumped up in his heart. As a woman who came here, she also had a need for men, but she was always buried deep in her heart. However, after meeting Li Xianxi, she felt that she was really thinking about spring. In the White House, Yekong is explaining some cultivation precautions to Chen Baixuan. There are many small things that are not recorded in the book. With Yekong, a person with previous experience, Chen Baixuan will be much less in cultivation. Detour. Although the boy Chen Baixuan is muddy, he is really clever, and he can learn from each other. After practicing in the past few days, he has also found the joy of cultivation and no longer goes out to cause trouble. Chen Baixuan was honest. The happiest one was Baiji. When she saw the teacher and apprentice talking in the room, she couldn't insert her mouth, so she went to the corner of the hall and cut out her clothes. After a while, Yekong walked out of Chen Baixuan's hut. Look at the busy Baiji in the hall, and look back at Chen Baixuan's hut. Yekong's eyes flickered, and suddenly he couldn't bear it, but after thinking about it, in fact, winning a house was not necessarily a bad thing. Just like myself, taking the original Yekong's body, isn't Chen Juniang happy? A fool who walked and gave her a fairy, what a good deal. And the fool's obsession almost helped him complete. In the hut. Chen Baixuan was not in a hurry to practice, he frowned, and thought. He is very clever, and has been outside for a long time, and has a strong ability to observe colors. He saw that the master didn't like him and didn't like it at all. But why did he accept himself as an apprentice? What's even more strange is that the last time he colluded with Sujia, the master Ming was very angry, but he didn't rebuke even a word, but he tried his best to teach himself to cultivate. What makes Chen Baixuan even more afraid is that the master's eyes, although the master smiles a lot, but deep in his eyes, the indifferent indifference, even now thinking of Chen Baixuan, he is afraid. Master. Although I don't know what you want to do, but I know you are not good intentions. You can rest assured that I will work hard and wait for the opportunity, I will never let you down when I have the chance. Chen Baixuan thought, looking coldly at the wooden door, then crossed his legs and closed his eyes, and entered the practice again. How did Baiji know that Li Xianxi used her son as a computer and was ready to install another system? I don't know if his son has been practicing hard, ready to kill teachers and ancestors whenever possible. Baiji was only happy, his son was obedient and became a monk, and his son's master was so strong. Although it was dark, it was not ugly. She cut a piece of lewd pants that the woman wore, and suddenly felt something. When she looked back, she found that Li Xianxi had already come out, and was looking at the lower part of her waist. Baiji flushed, why did Li Xianxi stare at me? Quickly tidy up the skirt by hand, came over. Yekong actually didn't really look at her fart stock, but she could see Baiji's movements, knowing that she had misunderstood. But Yekong couldn't explain it, nodded and walked over. Xianxi, did Xian'er start practicing again, Bajir had nothing to say. I don't know why, this very common sentence, she was so embarrassed by her red-faced and shy moves. Well, he has started to cultivate. He is still very diligent in cultivation. Not bad. Yekong should know that Chen Baixuan is trying hard to cultivate himself, and he is probably not so happy. After one question and one answer, the two had nothing to say. In embarrassment, Yekong saw a belly band that Bajir had just made on the counter. Your hands are so clever. Yekong looked at the embroidery above and was amazed. He remembered that the old lady didn't know where she was at the moment, how she was living, and the cleansing elixir in her storage bag. I didn't know when in order to let the old lady wear. Seeing Yekong pick up the belly band, Bajir's tender face turned redder immediately, and she lowered her head and whispered, "So good." "Is this just made?" Yekong asked again, and he was a little confused after asking, "Will you spray perfume on newly made clothes? Why is there a faint scent?" Bajir was really ashamed, bowed her head, and for a while, she said in a mosquito-like voice, "It was replaced before the slaves." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 267. 26 Teaching to Make Clothing. Listening to Bajir's words, Yekong was greatly embarrassed. This was what she just replaced from her body, not just what she did. Oh, Yekong quickly put down the coat. Li Xianxia, do you want to give some goodies to the belly band? There are just made over there. Bajir went to Yekong and took out a few freshly made clothes. Oh, I have no one to send. Yekong hastily denied. Bajir heard a joy in her heart, and Li Xianxia didn't have anyone to send. It showed that there was no good friend. She quickly responded and put a few belly bands back again. However, Yekong said, the woman's inner clothing can actually be reformed. This belly band is always annoying to look at, and this belly band does not have a good maintenance effect on the woman's body. In fact, you can change the pattern, maybe your shop will be even more popular. Oh, Bajir never thought about it, and said that this obscene clothes and trousers have been like this since ancient times. What else can I change? Yekong smiled and said, in fact, no one in my hometown wears this kind of belly band anymore. All women wear something called bras or bras. Scientists have proved that wearing the inner show on women's bodies more favorable, not only can maintain the beautiful curve of the figure, but also can postpone, what sagging, in short, is more than 100 times better than the belly band. Who is this scientist? It's really boring. I have nothing to do with women's things. Bajir could not help but take a sip, but was curious about Yekong's statement. Let us do this. I'll draw it for you to see, and you know Yekong hadn't cut it, so he picked up the paint powder and found a piece of paper to paint it. Yekong's technique of painting is really dare not compliment. After drawing for a long time, he also draws an outline, but with the schematic diagram, plus his description and sketch, it still made Bajir understand. Bajir was still very shy to study this meat-padded clothing with a man, but fortunately, the person who came here was not scared away by Yekong, but just blushed and discussed with Yekong. Xianxia, I understand everything you said, but such clothes are too new and too bold, and my daughter's family is so ashamed. How can I wear such clothes? Bajir said blushingly. There is nothing to wear out of this, modern earth, it is normal to wear these running on the street. Yekong laughed, the white girl is arrogant. These clothes are all dressed in clothes, but you are not asked to wear them out. What's the embarrassment? The main purpose of looking at these clothes is not to attract men's attention. But really consider the requirements of women's special parts of the body, can make women more comfortable to wear, whether it is walking or running, or even those martial arts women, no matter they feel more comfortable and convenient at any time. I have to say that these modern clothes are several times more advanced than the belly band. Under the introduction of Yekong, Baijier can understand the benefits. For example, if the belly band is tight, it will be uncomfortable. If it is loose, it will feel dangling. The kind of painting he painted would not have such a feeling. Even if it is a violent exercise, it will be steady in it. But, if you make it, do those women really buy it? Baijier still expressed skepticism. After all, such an innovation is too avant-garde. For a time, I am afraid it will be difficult for people to accept. Yekong laughed. In the beginning, it may be a bit uncomfortable, but some days, those women who pass through will feel the benefits, and will naturally help you to promote it for free. For example, if you wear it by accident and find it's really more comfortable than the original belly band. Do you want to wear it for a long time? Even if you start to feel a little shy, but others see your clothes, or someone is already wearing them, you will continue to wear them. Baijier giggled and yelled, Li Xianxia, it's really interesting to speak. The personal touches worn by her daughter's house are also related to history. Her smile was so touching that Yekong couldn't help but look at it. Let's do it yourself first, try it on, and if the effect is really good, you can make it in batches. Baijier nodded and agreed, in that case, I'll try it myself. Relax, I promise you will like it. Yekong is very confident about this. He believes in the benefits of modern clothing. The body structure of women in the Kangnan continent is no different from that of the Earth women. Why is it unpopular? After Yekong said these things, it was not too early to see the sky, and he wanted to say goodbye. But Baijier quickly asked, Xianxia, when will you come again next time? I can make it at most the day after tomorrow. Yekong quickly said, then I'll see you dressed the day after tomorrow. Afraid of Yekong's misunderstanding, she hurriedly said, no, the slave family wanted to make it for you to see and wear. Yekong was disappointed. Probably that's what it means. Even if you change it a little, it doesn't matter, as long as it achieves the effect I said. You can try it on yourself, I will have time to come again. Baijier was depressed. This immortal teacher really did. I heard that it wasn't for him to wear, so he changed from the day after tomorrow to have time. Waiting for Yekong to leave, Baijier suddenly had some regrets. She knew that she would be wrong, and told him to watch, so that he could see him the day after tomorrow. Yekong walked out of Surabaya city, and it was already dark. He accelerated through the woods outside the city, and his heart was still echoing Baijier's shy expression repeatedly. His fairy is stupid, Laozi is a hooligan, he should have jumped up. When did he become a gentleman? Yekong muttered, but at this moment, he frowned suddenly. Yekong stopped and gave a cold drink. There is no one in Linhai, Your Excellency should show up. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 268. 267 Spirit Martial Arts. Walking in the woods outside Surabaya city. Yekong suddenly raised a brow and stopped drinking. There is no one in Linhai, Your Excellency should show up. As you wish. A strong, sturdy man came out 100 steps in front of him. He was wearing loose pants, leggings on his feet, and only a coat of animal skin made of half-wrapped upper body, revealing healthy and shiny muscles, looking go up bravely. It turned out to be you. This one turned out to be one of Zhangda's apprentices in the blacksmith's black shop, and Yekong immediately thought of something. He took off the ink armor immediately. He has been out of the blacksmith's black shop for a long time, and he has not felt someone following him. The appearance of this big man at this moment must be what Zhangda has done to repair the magical instrument that he has made, which makes this person so easy to track yourself. Since I suspected that Zhangda had given himself a hand and foot, during the battle, this ink armor was also impenetrable, including the newly repaired golden shield broadsword. Who knows what kind of hands and feet that Zhangda has moved. Watching Yekong remove the ink armor, Mazali I said, Deo, I think you are still wearing that ink armor, although my master left a ray of God inside, but it does not affect its defense function. Play. Yekong has already been on Zhang Dai, how dare to trust this big man again. He took off the ink armor and put it in a storage bag, and then hummed and said, "Weasel gives the chicken a Chinese New Year, so you kindly remind me? I think your master is really too acting, even I was him I was deceived. I think your purpose here is to kill me for the treasure? If I didn't guess wrong, all you want is, my ink skin." I nodded and applauded, "Yes, you are really a smart person. In the beginning, he asked me for a small piece of inkwell. The purpose was not the small piece. He just wanted to use this small piece to confirm whether I still have it." Yekong had already figured out everything at this time. Joint shook his head and said, "It is true that the monks in the Kangnan continent can't believe it. I actually want to help him. Ma Zali is a real person, and his face was actually flushed by Yekong. In fact, he didn't want to come, but his life was so difficult that he had to mo yanpe. Dao, I see that you have a good heart, and I don't want to kill you, so, you leave the mo yanpe, I will take it back to the master, everyone is happy," Ma Zali said. Yekong was joked and laughed by him, "Big man, people say I am an arrogant, but I think you are even more arrogant. If you are the ancestor of Yuanying, I may consider your suggestion, but you are not Chi layer, Xiu Wei is not as high as I am, I really can't see what you can do to kill me." Ma Zali looked at Yekong again, then shook his head, "You can't beat me. I do not believe. You can try." Yekong stopped talking nonsense to him, and patted a storage bag, and a black slender magic sword flew out. Yuzuo sword. Yekong played a trick with his lips open, Huasuo. I saw the slender blade of the Ursuo sword immediately turned into a black whip, the whip's head was agile like a snake, it was shaking, as if full of fighting consciousness, only the master ordered to smash the opponent. "Go," Yekong reprimanded, and Yuzuo whip turned into a black light, splitting his face towards Ma Zali. This boy was so terrible that he didn't even open the shield of spiritual power against the monk who was higher than his realm. Yekong thought of it this way. Pop, Wu Suojian did not disappoint Yekong, and whip him firmly against Ma Zali's bare chest. But to the surprise of Yekong, the barbarian-like man on the opposite side was intact. The Urso sword is also a Chinese-style weapon. Even the real people in the base period did not dare to open the spiritual shield and connect it with the whip, but the kid's body was powerful and terrible. The Urso sword pulled up, even no white mark was left. "I don't believe in this evil," Yekong manipulated Wu Suojian, slamming, and 3 whip again. Still no response, the chest of the big man opposite was like millennium fine iron, and there were no traces of it. Enough, as soon as Ma Zali raised his hand, he grabbed the whip of Yuzuo whip in his palm. Yekong pumped abruptly, without moving. "You can't beat me." Ma Zali let go of his hand, with great confidence in his tone, and then he said, "Daiyu, don't be afraid to tell you, don't look at me as only the 5th level practice of gas refining, but do you know? I didn't use this method to practice this. I was practicing spiritual martial arts to the 5th layer of gas. My skin is far more powerful than you monks can imagine." Yekong listened for a while, and before listening to Zhang Wulin said, "This spiritual martial art is the 2nd level of gas refining at most, and he will not use spells or magic weapons. Lingwu is also a kind of secular martial arts. Martial arts and Xianxian exercises." Seeing Yekong's doubts, Ma Zali continued, "Perhaps you have also heard that Lingwu can only cultivate to the 2nd layer of gas refining, but the legend is wrong. Those people who stop practicing to the 2nd layer of gas refining stop it because they have used the correct method. My master and I are using the authentic Lingwu practice method, do look at you 2 levels higher than me, but in fact, your strength is much worse than mine. Don't say that you are a 7-layer refining gas, it is an ordinary real person who builds the base, and it is not my opponent. Taking the martial arts path, It really has some fame. Yekong nodded, and it seemed that the rumors outside could not be trusted. Just like everyone else said that it is impossible to break through the early stage of gas refining, but have you reached the later stage of gas refining? It seems that it is not impossible for the cultivation of Lingwu to break through the second layer of gas refining. The key is the correct method. Seeing Yekong's expression, Ma Zali nodded, and said, "Okay, you have already seen my strength, so please keep melancholy skin. If it is not because your heart is still good, I will not tell you nonsense." In Ma Zali's view, the monk on the seventh layer of gas refining is already scared. Seeing his powerful physical strength, the monks must retreat. What he didn't expect was that the black-faced monk actually smiled slightly, took out another flying sword weapon from the storage bag, and said, "You're right, ordinary 7-layer gas refining monks really can't beat it. You. But I'm afraid to let you down, because, I'm not an ordinary 7-layer monk of gas refining, and an ordinary person who builds a base is not my opponent. I would like to see that this spiritual martial arts practice reaches the 5th layer of gas refining." What a cow X! Yekong took out this time a sapphire sword inlaid with a handle. This is what he gained when the barbarians blocked the dog team. The Wujuo sword is a relatively feminine weapon, so it must suffer from a strong opponent like Ma Zali, so Yekong took this hard sword. This sword is made of iron with extraordinary hardness, and the stock is inlaid with sapphire to increase hardness, so Yekong feels that it is best to use the sword and this big man to hit it. To the reader. 8 more, if there are bricks, let's go up. I recommend a friend's book Harem Entertainment today. It is harem and entertainment. If you want to see it, you can search for it. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 269. 268 Chaos. But some people are not optimistic. When Dao saw Yekong take out a flying sword again, he said anxiously, "My son, although this jade sword looks hard, the big man's body is stiffer, and he hasn't taken out the weapon yet. So what do you say? It's better to let Dao get off the horse and help the son remove this person." Yekong laughed. "It's been a long time since you stayed in the spirit beast circle. Your hands have itchy hands." Dao was told his heart was flushed and murmured, "Since I got Yun Fuzong, every day except watering I have been weeding or catching insects. Any and beast who specializes in these is shameful. Why? What's so bad about planting flowers, feeding fish, and raising chickens? Girls have to cultivate love like this, fight and kill all day long, and they won't even find their husbands." Yekong educated this newly understanded person very seriously Li Long. Then he said, "Next time I will let you do it. If my son can't even do 5 layers of gas refining, then I might as well accompany Bai Jie to sell belly bands. But his body is harder than Millennium Iron Essence. I'm afraid you son. Rest assured, how hard can he resist Jing Guanjiao?" Dao had nothing to say now, and Jing Guanjiao was an ancient treasure. The moon buds cut out were very overbearing. This big man was a body made of cold iron for thousands of years and couldn't stand it. But Dao's strange thing is, since the son has Jing Guanjiao, why not just take out this guy? Yekong didn't use Jing Guanjiao because he wanted to use Yingwu to fight with Ma Zali. Like Lingwu, Yingwu is also a martial arts practice, and the history of Yingwu is more distant. Yekong does not believe that Yingwu can do nothing. Lingwu. Dao Yu, this is my weapon. As soon as Ma Zali raised his hand, 2 long, shiny red knives appeared in his hands. This dark red long knife is about 1 meter and 5 meters long, but it doesn't feel long in the hands of Ma Zali. This knife is not very wide, even a bit like a sword. The blade is narrow and slightly curved. The blade is sharp and sparkling bright crimson. The back of the knife has no blade, is black, and has a round, bumpy cloud shape. What is even more surprising is that this pair of knives is not a magic weapon, and people don't feel spiritual power. But the knife was in his hand, but exuded a heavy murderous spirit. Dao, you are careful. This is the Huoyun knife that master specially made for me. Ma Zali is really a gentleman. Although he is an enemy, he is constantly reminding each other. Xianxia smiled and said, your master's refiner technology is so superb, and the weapons produced will also be extraordinary. I will not take it lightly, but I also want to remind you that I have also trained a kind that is not inferior to Ling Wu. You must also be careful about martial arts. The two reminded each other that if people of unknown circumstances saw it, they thought they were friends and were ready to have a pure friendship discussion. But when the two got started, they found out that this was a discussion, which was purely due to life. Let you see the power of Ling Wu. Ma Zali held Huoyun's sword in both hands, and there was no previous stance. His eyes were full of powerful warfare, and the murderous power radiated from the sword was even more thrilling. Crazy. Ma Zali used the killing trick as soon as he shot. I saw him rushing forward. The double knives in his hands were like a spinning windmill, the knives were vertical and horizontal, the knives were staggered, and the knives were as fast as red lightning. The 2-meter-high brawny man, dancing with a 1-meter-5-meter-long double knife, combined with the mighty power of the martial arts, is truly extraordinary. Yekong appears to be much weaker. His height, strength, and weapons are all not as good as those of Ma Zali on the opposite side, and Dao can't help but pinch sweat for Yekong. Dang 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 dang. The sound of metal impact kept ringing, and the jade sword flickered with red light from time to time, as if the metal had been tempered, and Mars was splashing. Yekong was just defensive. Under Ma Zali's attack like a storm, he didn't even get a chance to stab it. I didn't fight back, I thought you were so good. Ma Zali thought to himself, a little disappointed. Dao, I have given you a chance, so no wonder you, go to death. Ma Zali roared, and the speed of chaos and slashing was doubled again. In his opinion, the speed of this guy was very embarrassing. Now the speed is doubled. Can you still handle it? Wait for me to split your shield and let you be fragmented. Dang dang dang. The more dense metal impact sounded, and the leaves in the grove were shaken up by the fierce knife air, and the red knife light was strange and magnificent. Yekong was beaten so hard that he couldn't lift his head, but Ma Zali was surprised that his speed had reached the limit of 80% at the moment, but this kid still took it. He just cut 1,000 knives just now, but he could not touch this kid's spiritual shield. To know that he is a double sword, he only has a sword. Dao, you did not disappoint me, I want to attack with all my strength. Ma Zali had no good heart at this moment, he was already angry. Yekong's face was faint in the spiritual shield, but he can still be seen as calm. But you have let me down a little bit, just relying on brute force, always for the best. Yekong's words further exasperated Ma Zali. His eyes were red with blood, thick lips, and he shouted, even if you use brute force to hack, you can kill those who use the magic weapon. Slashed. Act at full speed. The angry Ma Zali raised his power to the extreme, and the speed of the knife even exceeded the limit by several percent. The Huoyun knife was invisible, and Ma Zali seemed to be holding 2 red clusters of black light in his hands. On his side, those old trees that could not be held by anyone were scraped by this knife, just like cutting tofu. Plant after plant fell to the ground. Yekong finally couldn't resist, his figure flew back, and Ma Zali followed closely. Dang 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 dang. Yekong flew in rapid succession while continuing the continuous attack. He didn't move his feet, his body wrapped in a layer of golden light retreated quickly, and Ma Zali, like a savage, did run with his feet on both feet without falling, and the attack in his hand was interrupted for a moment. Retire. See where you can go. Want to burn my energy? Huh, the cultivator is physically strong. You exhausted 3 times, and I haven't felt tired yet. Bang, Yekong finally retreated, slamming his back against a giant tree. See where you run. There was joy in Ma Zali's heart. Yekong has been defending. If a sword is not issued, it is not that he cannot keep up with Ma Zali, but that he is experiencing the rhythm of Ma Zali. Yekong has mastered Yingwu's first upright meaning, rhythm. The rhythm of each martial artist is fixed, no matter what moves he changes, he will have the same rhythm. Rhythm is not frequency. Frequency can be accelerated or slowed down. Rhythms are generated by martial arts practitioners in decades of practice, and cannot be changed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 270. New Comprehension of Shadow Martial Art. At this moment, Yekong has completely sensed Ma Zali's rhythm. In other words, no matter how severe Ma Zali's attack, Yekong can easily break through the attack. At this moment, the sword came out and pierced easily from the light of the sword. Seal your throat with a sword. Kang, Lingwu's refining body was really powerful, and the sword trembled suddenly, even the throat was so tough. Eye-catching. Clang, eyes are impenetrable. Come again. Ma Zali took a step back, his heart filled with shock. His knife speed is so fast and his sword is so fierce that he can't even splash the water, but this boy has so easily escaped his attack, and then stabs it like a probe. On your own body. This is so weird, how did he do it? You hacked me more than 3,000 knives before I backed off, and when I gave out 3 swords, you scared back. Come again, Yekong beckoned to him. Mastering the rhythm is like mastering the pulse, how the other party attacks, the interval between the attacks, the weaknesses, all at your fingertips. I don't believe I can't kill you with my power. Ma Zali was ironically savage again by Yekong. Power, Yekong shook his head. There are many types of power. If you can win with only brute force, Huo Yuanjia will never be able to do Russian warriors. Ma Zali roared, who is Huo Yuanjia? I want to fight him. You pass my level first, you can hit me, you win. Yekong laughed. Then let you see my ultimate killing trick. Ma Zali's voice didn't fall, and his body had jumped high. This jump really sounded amazing. The places where both feet just stood were shook by the earthquake. And his tall and sturdy body seemed to cover all the moonlight. Ma Zali leaped into the air and hit Yekong like a shell. At the same time, the fiery cloud knife in his hands crossed sharply. Cross-cut. Close to the top of Yekong's head, the flaming red cloud of fire cloud slashed for a minute, and the 2 blood-red sword lights that crossed were drawn towards Yekong like 2 whip. Everything you said can't be beaten. Yekong's body jumped up immediately in Yingwu's posture, wearing a white coat flying in Yingwu's posture, and at the same time with a spiral rotation. The action is like a dragon flying into the sky if the missile is out of water. How handsome and handsome. Unfortunately, there is no onlookers around. Boom, after Yekong flickered away, he saw 2 intersecting cracks on the ground where he was standing. There were irregular lines around the cracks, and the cracks were dark. I didn't know how deep they were. It looked startling. Speaking of which, this Lingwu is indeed very powerful. Looking at the 2 oblique cross-shaped gaps, Yekong couldn't help sighing. If he could make such a gap, he wouldn't be able to use the powerful magic weapon. At the moment, Yekong couldn't help but want to cultivate this spiritual martial art. If you have both a magic weapon and such a powerful body and strength, it is more than enough to marry 180 wives without mentioning fighting. Ma Zali is not as lively as Yehalo. Women can be thought of in PK. His final killing was escaped by Yekong, and he did not hesitate, sighing. Daiu, since I can't hit you, let me stop. I do nt want your Momo skin. Do nt go to our refining machine in the future. My master is also the spiritual martial arts body reaching the middle of the foundation. You are not his opponent. Yekong laughed after listening. Friend, you're real enough. But you can't leave. How easy is it? You are my leaf. Lihisa is a pinch character. I usually don't mess with people. Thank goodness, you and your master actually want to kill me to win the treasure. This beam is big. Mazali stunned Huoyandeo, pointing at Yekongdeo. What do you want? Yekong's face was cold. People want to kill me. I will kill them. Not to mention the murderous treasure that I hate so much. With this method, I also opened a black shop. It's really a bird who wants to cross before it peels. No, you can do it. Mazali laughed. Dao, although you are a little doorway, but you are too mad and unreliable. How big do you think you are? You just have the ability to dodge and you can't fool me into hitting you. You want to kill me, do you have that ability? Taoist, I'll take care of it. I can't hit you, you can't kill me. Yekong has never been a man of easy compromise. He has always provoked him, and he must repay it. Not to mention killing him. In his words, spit it out, and you can eat it with forbearance. If you pull out the shit, you can plug in the fart eyes. You can't hit me, the answer is yes. However, I can't kill you, then it's hard to say. Yekong sneered and raised the sapphire sword in his hand. Dao said, it's boring. In the end, you still used Jingguang. You used it earlier, didn't you solve it early? Yekong shouted, who said to use golden light to slap? I don't need golden light, neither water and fire gourds, nor fu bao, I just use this Chinese magic weapon in my hand, sapphire sword. Dao was weird this time. Did you not pierce him with this sword? The most fragile eyes could not be pierced. Am I wrong? Yes, it's a sapphire sword. This is the benefit of not using Jingguanjiao at the beginning. Any kung fu or spell must be used more in order to take it one step further. Let you see, the latest killing trick I just learned from the rhythm of Yingluo. Rhythm cut. That's right, rhythmic cutting is what Yekong just learned from rhythm. In fact, it was very simple. Yekong only thought about how to use the rhythm to avoid the attack of the opponent. After fighting with Mazali, Yekong had a new idea. That is to use rhythm to attack. Yekong was holding a sapphire sword, with his toes a little bit on the ground, wearing a sword with his body. His sword and sword turned into a white shadow and stabbed out suddenly. Dang, sapphire sword poked at Mazali's chest, making a sound of metal-like impact. It stands to reason that this is the most powerful part of Mazali's body, but Yekong still stabs it up. No sword. But Yekong was another sword. Still stabbed in the previous part, not bad. Dang dang dang, I saw Yekong stab his arm quickly. Dozens of swords stabbed in a while. And the position of each sword must be stabbed at that point on Mazali's chest. Not good. Mazali suddenly realized Yekong's attempt, and he flew back quickly, but Yekong followed him. Hello despicable, Mazali slammed the Huoyun sword again and again, but Yekong had already mastered his rhythm, and the Huoyun sword danced imperviously again, but the sapphire sword still stabbed unaffected. Fall exactly on that point. To the reader. 8 more, if there are bricks, let's go up. I recommend a friend's book Harem Entertainment today. It is Harem and Entertainment. If you want to see it, you can search for it. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 271. 2700 was also a waste. The current situation and just now seem to have dropped one by one. Just now Yekong flew back, and Mazali was chasing after him. Now it is Mazali's rapid retreat, Yekong is chasing after him. The only difference is that Yekong retreated calmly just now, but Mazali was panicked at the moment. Mazali couldn't help but not be afraid. Yekong stabbed him a little every time, even if his body was made of fine iron, he couldn't bear the tight-eyed attack. What scared Ma Zali even more was that Yekong's rhythmic chopping not only stabbed his skin, but every sword that had rhythm had resonance with his muscles. In other words, rhythm chopping attacks both the superficial skin and the inner muscles. The tremor was getting stronger and stronger, and Ma Zali was afraid that his epidermis had not been pierced, and all the muscles inside were shattered. Bang! There was a pair of enchanting double knives in the hands of Ma Zali. They could neither cut Yekong nor stop the attack of Sapphire Sword. When his back slammed against a giant tree, he spit out blood. Yekong's Sapphire Sword was also firmly nailed to his chest. Looking down the long and straight sword, Yekong's pair of stern eyes. "You kill me." Ma Zali felt the pain, which was the pain of piercing his body with a sharp weapon. He hasn't felt this pain for a long time since refining. He also felt that the blade of this sharp sword was a step away from his heart. He is not a monk, nor is he angry. As long as his heart is punctured, he will die. Ma Zali lowered his knife in his hand weakly, exhaling, and said lightly, "Dao, kill me, but I advise you not to go to the trouble of my master. Although you are really strong, but you want to kill my master, you are still a lot behind. My master is by no means the same as me." Yekong's eyes flickered and he asked, "Why do you remind me? Don't you want your master to take revenge on you?" Ma Zali tilted his head, spit out the blood in his mouth, and shook his head with a smile. "The world's hearts are full of utilitarianism, everything has a purpose, and you have to ask why. Even if there is no slap in the skin, behind it the conspiracy was something I didn't even understand when I thought about death. My Ma Zali is really tragic." Then he looked at Yekong again and asked, "If I remind you that there is no purpose, from the beginning reminder, it will not bring any purpose and conspiracy, but I think you are a good person, have a good impression on you, do not want to kill you. Do you believe it?" Ma Zali stared at Yekong with a mocking smile on his face. No one believed what he said, and it was ridiculous to hear the immortal practitioners in the Kangnan continent. To an enemy who has no friendship or even a word, will remind the enemy again and again? This is ridiculous. But to his surprise, Yekong laughed and smiled slightly. "Faith, why don't I believe it? You see this vast sky, a darkness, but can never cover the light of the stars." Yekong said again and again, "You are a gentleman, what you do, even if it is a sentence, remind, I can't do it? Why are you following someone like Zhangde? In my opinion, you and him should not be all the way." The night wind was blowing gently in the woods. Ma Zali lowered his head. "I was born in an immortal family. Everyone is an immortal. I also want to be an immortal, but I don't have a spiritual root. Only the master can make me an immortal. But if you were immortal, you wouldn't die today." "I'd rather die." Ma Zali suddenly raised his head, loudly, "I would rather die. Don't be a waste of being joked by everyone. Come on, kill me, I don't blame you. Ma Zali is ready to die. What counts is death. Most people have to die. Even as a mortal, even if it is not today, it will only live for decades. At least I was once a cultivator. One who can defeat the immortals of the building base." But Yekong shook the sapphire sword and pulled it out. "Let's go, I won't kill you today." Ma Zali looked at Yekong in surprise and asked, "Why?" "Because I was once a waste." Although Yekong released Ma Zali, this guy is really sincere. He had already decided to die, but now he is dead, but he is at a loss. "Brother, I think you and Zhangde are really not the same person. I advise Brother Mayor to go back to him, and follow that kind of person, there is absolutely no end." Yekong snorted, "and tonight the result is that cruel and cunning old guy. But master raised me from a young age and taught me Lingwu." Ma Zali still couldn't figure it out. Yekong shook his head and said, "Brother Ma's remarks are bad. I think that Zhangde's heart is fierce. He is by no means a kind person. Even raising you from an early age, there is no other purpose. Besides, you help him work these years, for him murder is also a reward. But, I don't have a place to go. Mazali frowned again. Yahalo said, this big man has such good physical strength, it is really a natural labor. Although he really wanted to take Mazali to Yunfuzong to replace Dao with watering and catching insects. But think about it anyway, Cao Mooking's woman is not good at talking. If she takes a stranger up the mountain, she might be mad. So, brother, aren't you born in the Xianxian family? I haven't gone back for many years. I think you might as well go back to visit your relatives first. My father and mother must be worried about me and take me to the second elder to say goodbye. Wait for your relatives to come back, let's do some research. Yekongzhong thought about it, and when Mazali left, he killed Zhangde himself. When Mazali comes back, Zhangde is dead. Mazali also completely breaks his mind, then he will do his hard work hard. How could Mazali know the boy's shameless thoughts, and when Yekong said this, he was moved to tears. Dao, Ma is really moved. Not only did you let me go, you also remembered my parents. Ma is really sincere people. Yekong patted Mazali, and he seemed to be moved. Brother, don't say anything, I still have some healing elixir, you should take the road. When I come back to Yunfuzong to find me, my name is Li Hizi. Disciples of Sihatang. Brother, you are such a good person. Mazali wiped away with tears how far he went, took out another jade and threw it over, and then walked in the opposite direction of Surabaya city. Yekong took Yuchan and went deep into it with his spiritual knowledge. What is recorded here is actually the authentic exercises of the lingui refining body. Although it only has the content of the refining period, it can be practiced, and it can also have a skill that is inaccessible. This business is doing well. Even if Mazali is killed, there is no benefit. On the contrary, leaving him, but the benefits are many. I believe that when Mazali returns, he will have a loyal, hard-working and thugs, but also a meat shield. Really sincere people, I like to deal with real people. After leaving Mazali, Yekong was ready to deal with Zhangde's old boy. Old man, dare to use Lao Tzu's good intentions to deceive Lao Tzu, it is such a courage. Even if your old bird is as hard as iron, Lao Tzu will grind you into a needle. To the reader. Seeking brick. Crossing the line of fire, the Doxia Dragon team of Guangdong Telecom 2nd District was popular. Welcome to group number 87073210. Another summoned a superior to this book.